Hey, what's up, boys? On today's episode of Fight IQ with Jesse Sidhu, I got two prop picks for you guys that are more logical and no one's really talking about that are more likely to hit than not. So stay tuned for that. Those are two fights on the main card. And yeah, here we go. So welcome to a little bit of a hiatus, but this is the fifth episode of Fight IQ with Jesse Sidhu. And today we're going to be going over Evloev versus Murphy UFC Fight Night. So we can just get started on the main card. So it's an interesting fight. So first fight of the night, not the first fight, the main event of the night is Evloev versus Murphy, which, two guys that kind of have been getting the short end of the stick. They both could easily have justified fighting for the title against Volk, but neither one has been getting it. Evloev has kind of like a layoff. It's like sometimes he pulls out, sometimes no one wants to fight him. It's tough to tell. Murphy has just been more active. So we'll see. This could either be very exciting or pretty much a trash card. So it's going to be tough to see what happens. Simplest breakdown, it's going to be the grappler Evloev versus a striking focused Murphy. The way to break it down is, to me, can Murphy's takedown defense stop Evloev's intense chain wrestling? One thing is, what we can see is if he can stop it, Murphy does have the capability, even though he mostly wins by decision, he can finish the fight. So Pico, I would say, is best example to Evloev that Murphy has faced, where I don't think he's as high of a grappler as Evloev, but he's no slouch either. The only difference I think between Evloev and Pico is Pico put himself in more situations to get finished, where Evloev doesn't. Can Murphy rise to the occasion is my biggest thing. And to me, I just got to go with my gut. I think Murphy, I'm a striker by heart too, so I actually like Murphy as a dog in this fight. So I'm going to take him on DraftKings as a dog. So that is my thing. Today I'm also doing something new a little bit. So I will have it all in the Google Sheet, everything broken down on my fights, what the odds were and everything. So I know things change depending on what you sign. So everything will be up to date on the Google track, which will be on the description of the vid. Second fight, co-main event, Riley versus Aswell. These guys are two young fighters from top regional promotions. Riley's been fighting at Cage Warriors. Aswell has been fighting for Fury Fighting down in Texas in the U.S. Both are strikers, but I think Riley's just a little bit more technical, even though he does sit on his punches and leaves himself open to more bad striking exchanges where he could get caught. He just has a powerful chin. Aswell's a little bit more volume and pressure heavy is the best way to do that. But the difference is Riley, I think, is much more well-rounded. He has the advantage when it comes to wrestling and grappling. So with that, difference, Riley will get the W, I think. Also, I mentioned earlier about the prop. One prop I like, though, is because Riley does put himself liable in these exchanges, he is likely to also get knocked out as well, I think, even though he has shown durability. So the prop I like is this fight not going the distance, you get plus 100. So that's what I'm also going to put one unit for sure. And then also I think Riley wins money line. Next on the card is going to be, I think, a pretty exciting fight. It's MVP versus Patterson. So this one's, MVP, what can we say about it? He has a very unique striking style. He manages distance well and is hard to figure out. Also, props to him, too, is I love that he came in from Bellator to the UFC and has just been fighting. He fought Holland. He fought Gary. He just fights dudes. So, he is, staying himself active, even though he is getting up there in age. And that's one thing we always question is, when will Father Time hit? That's a big question mark in this fight. And then Patterson, though, he's not a slouch as a striker, but I just don't think he's nowhere near as evolved as MVP is as a striker. But Patterson does have the better wrestling, and he's dangerous on the ground. So if he can figure out MVP's timing and technique and bring it down to the fight, similar to how Gary did, that is Patterson's path to victory. I just don't think he'll figure out MVP's timing. So I like actually MVP by decision. I know he is due for a knockout win at some point, but ever since he stepped up in competition fighting in the UFC, it's been 4 decision fights, 3 wins, 1 loss. I think it's going to continue. So I like MVP by decision. I'm going to put 1 unit. Next, we have Baraniewski versus this one's tough. So I feel bad for Lane a little bit. Like he is now looking more and more like a stepping stone for these fighters. He's lost to Petrino. He lost to. Wish I should have this up a little bit more, but he's lost to Pinto, who's also on this card. So like that, he's on like he's lost 3 of the last 4 fights, and he beat Despania, but like Despania fought like shit more than I think Lane showed that he's good. Iwo Baraniewski though, he is this up and coming prospect, and he is just a much more technically sound striker as well. He focuses on boxing, and he is also a superior grappler. So I think with those 3 things, he's a judo black belt, BJJ brown belt. So to me, like I think he's going to win on all 3 fight levels. What was interesting though is 2 things to keep note in this fight is Iwa has won every single fight of his in the first round, including a fantastic fight against Aslan. But the one cool thing about it, if you watch the Aslan fight, is Baraniewski has gotten himself caught in these like high pressure, like it was like a barbell. So my personal take on this is Iwa and his coach are going to come back and not let themselves get caught in that situation. Because one thing with Lane is he does have power, so he can't catch them. These guys are, big fighters. It's fighting at 205, so one shot could catch someone and knock them out. 2 props I love in this fight, just because Baraniewski is just too much of a favorite. You can't just take the money line. 1, I like Iwa by first round finishes at about like minus 175. Also, I actually like, because of his grappling prowess, even though he hasn't really gotten any takedowns, I think he's going to try to take him down and ground and pound this one to avoid a firefight. You can get Baraniewski over under takedowns 0.5 over. So he only needs 1 at plus 200. I think that's insane. Like that is the prop of the night to me. I just don't see someone as smart as this guy, and like with this coaching, like, if he does care about his career, he's not going to want to like get himself caught, because this win will slowly build him up. He's got 1 win in the UFC already. This one, and he wants to build himself up to be a contender in the future. He's only 27, so he's got like hopefully he wants to win the title by 30 with that trajectory. I think he's going to like take this fight, and he needs to prove a point. So I think he just with his judo background into his boxing, he'll come in close, get the clinch, take him down, and then just finish him. And so I really like that prop. I think that's a good way to get value in this fight where there really isn't any other value. All right, off to the next fight is Dolidze versus Christian Leroy. What a name, Leroy. Love that. This one, it's an interesting fight. So I like to categorize Dolidze as like a chaos style fighter but he does have elite grappling, but it's just like, he's not super technical, but he does have power and he's opportunistic. He uses his striking to try to get a finish, either on the ground or KO. While Duncan is just very smooth and fluid. Like he uses movement very well, and he's a technical striker. Dolidze is more experienced, but Duncan, I think, is developing still, and he has strong upside to me. Like, even though the experience does go with Dolidze, even though Dolidze is a better grappler and wrestler, I think Duncan will be able to keep the fight standing. And because he keeps the fight standing, I think as long as it's standing, Duncan. And I do think there's going to be like a decision, just because Dolidze is very, but I think over time, Duncan will just keep on putting pressure. Technical striking will just get him. So I like just Duncan on this. And then Campbell, last fight of the main event is Curtis Campbell versus Danny Silva. This one's interesting. Campbell is the up-and-coming hometown from England prospect, while Silva is, the experienced fighter. way I break it down is like in the three things of grappling, wrestling, and striking. Silva is a slicker striker with him, uses movement, very good. Campbell, though, is the better grappler. So to me, what it boils down to is, can Campbell take down Silva over the 3 rounds and do that? I don't think he will. I think this is one where like the books are a little bit wrong. Silva has fought some good dudes, and the one specifically is based off the last fight night, which was Vallejos versus Emmett. Vallejos showed up, beat Emmett, and you know what? Danny Silva's one loss, like of his 3 UFC fights, he's 2-1. He's beaten the dudes he's supposed to beat, Kuloba and Almeida, and he lost to Kevin Vallejos. But it's also a loss that was by decision. Vallejos has been finishing people left and right, but he could not finish Silva. I don't think Campbell's going to finish Silva. And because there's a step up in competition for Campbell, I don't know if Campbell's going to be able to keep up his pace and do all that for the 3 rounds. I think Silva's boxing will and striking will just overtake him over the 3 rounds. And I think Silva will win by decision. So I actually like Silva in this fight a lot. And I think that's getting dog money on him is just worth it. So my pick is Silva by decision, and I just like Silva on this card. The last fight of the prelims is also low-key going to be very interesting. It's Mason Jones from Wales versus Axel Sola from France. A typical England versus French matchup, so a little bit about that. This is also something to me that stands out is Jones is more well-rounded. He's fought better competition. And, you know, I think even though Sola has a very nice striking karate type style, you know, popping in and out, it's a little bit less polished than Jones. And Jones does win on the grappling wrestling. This one, I think I think you just got to go Jones. And the nice thing is you get pretty reasonable odds. Like it's under 200. So I think getting Jones at under 200 is that even though Axel is like undefeated, he has won no decision or no contest or whatever you want to call it. He's still relatively new to the UFC. He hasn't really fought that much anyone. And Jones is as well, but he's 2 fights in. I just think like the hometown advantage and Jones' skill set just matches up well, unfortunately, against Axel, and I think he gets it done. Next, I think the fight where it's either going to be, you know, fight of the night, could be potentially, it's just going to be a good fight to me, is Keita versus Wood. Everyone's all about Keita. And, you know, not that they're wrong about it. He's young. He's like a hunter. He's more athletic. And then he also shows power. So that, where Woods, you know, he's not fancy. To me, Woods is more well-rounded and he's just like a tough SOB. And he's a more experienced fighter. Got the grappling edge. This one, I just don't love the price that Keita's so much of a favorite that I think it's just the smart money is to put it on Wood, 1 unit. And I think he wins by decision. Because Wood can get caught. There's no question about that. But I just think Wood is smart and he's going to take this fight to the ground knowing where he can win. And I think over the 3 rounds, he's just going to accumulate the point advantage. Yeah. And the thing too is Wood is no slouch. Dude, he's only 32. He's tough. Like he's full of decisions. And, you know, sure, Keita has all the power, but it's not like he hasn't fought dudes. He fought Jose Delgado, Panada, Sherry, like these dudes. And, you know, he's won his last 3 fights by decision. So I don't see this fight. There's 2 options. I think either Wood wins by decision or Keita gets a finish. Unfortunately, the odds aren't great on that. So I just like taking the dog money and just saying Wood. Next, another exciting fight between 2 big boy heavyweights, Mario Pinto and Felipe Franco. This one I think is pretty one-sided. I'm not actually going to make a bet on this. I'm going to put this on my parlay, but my long shot parlay. But because Pinto is just so much of a favorite, it's just not worth the odds. Pinto just has the advantage too. You know, keep it short and sweet. He's a technical striker with also very superior grappling. Franco does have an aggressive style, and he has so much power. I just don't think he'll be able to out-technique Pinto. And even though these are heavyweights and it only takes 1 shot, I think Pinto's going to accumulate that. It's not like Pinto's weak as well, but I think it's just technically sound striking is going to do it. And if he does get caught, I think he'll be able to take it to the ground. And, Pinto has shown the ability to beat powerful dudes. He did beat Austin Lane previously as well. Next is an interesting fight. It's Mantas Condravicius versus Antonio Trocoli. This was interesting. So usually in this card, I've been picking a lot more of the guys with more experience, and Trocoli is more experienced than Mantas, because this is Mantas' first fight after, first fight in the UFC. But it's tough because I don't think Trocoli is as invested in the UFC as like you would think. He's on like a 3-fight losing streak. He is the better grappler, but he's been trying to strike some people. I don't know. And the one thing about Mantas is the better striker, even though he's less experienced. And if they do keep this fight standing, Mantas is. I also think Mantas has enough defensive wrestling that he'll be able to keep this fight standing. I'm also going to avoid this fight because like Mantas at this time is like a minus like 1,000 plus like favored. But he does win. He's going to be on my long shot parlay, but I have Mantas getting the dub. Next on the fight is another heavyweight bout, which is going to be fun, I think, just because this is a lower level like heavyweights. These guys aren't in the top 15 or anything. So this one, one strike could change the thing of the fight, but it's going to be Sutherland versus Brando Pericic from Australia. This one, I think Pericic is the better striker. He uses movement. He's more smooth. Sutherland is more of a pressure fighter moving forward, including leg kicks. He does like to do that, but he's very straightforward. It's just like he goes boom, punches, turns, punches, but he doesn't use movement or anything. So I think if Pericic can keep his movement and not get annihilated by leg kicks, these are heavyweights, so it's only going to take like 2 leg kicks. And as long as he can keep his movement, I think Pericic will pick apart Sutherland and just win the fight. I will say Sutherland is the better grappler than Pericic, but I don't see him getting, because I think Pericic will be able to keep him at range and like just use his movement to like keep it off balance. I do think Pericic wins, and I think the finish he gets is by KO. Next on the fight, Shem versus Abdul Karim Al-Selwady. So this one's interesting. So, like I always like to put this out, is Al-Selwady, I think, is the better fighter on paper. But biggest red flag to me is he hasn't fought since 2024 in March. So literally we're talking about 2 years. It's 2026. It's a 2-year. How rusty is Al-Selwady going to be? Because it's ring rusty. That is a big thing. And it's not like Shamrock is like some scrub. He did lose his UFC debate, but he is a very explosive striker. Not super technically sound, but just fights. And he does have good grappling as well. Not anywhere near as good as Al-Selwady's wrestling is. Like Al-Selwady has that, but the 2-year tail. And then the interesting part is, Rock has a better kick game, and he likes using kicks, which is interesting. He uses teeps, leg kicks, body kicks. So that, and it's an open stance fight. So, that teep up the middle is always there. So like, if he keeps him throwing that teep up the middle, that rear teep, which just hits right into the body, can he use that enough to keep Al-Selwady like, oh, do I want to just, change level and then get kicked in the face? Not the knee up the middle too. As much as I think Al-Selwady is a better fighter, Rock is only like a minus 140, minus 175. Not that much of a favorite, so his odds aren't terrible. I think you have to go with, if you want to bet on this fight, I just said, like, I can't say like, oh, I got to go with the 2-year layoff is too much. And it's like, we don't know why, like more that like, why you didn't fight in 2025. Like there wasn't really. Finally, the first fight of the prelims is Dwyer versus Olivera. This one, short and sweet. I like to say Dwyer is the superior striker from England. Olivera is on a 2-fight losing streak. She's a little bit, but she is a good grappler, better than Dwyer. I don't say good grappler, better than Dwyer. It's interesting because Dwyer is the debut fighter, but it's tough. Everything signs point to they built this fight. The UFC put this fight to give Dwyer a dub. And, I don't think Olivera, Dwyer's wrestling defense isn't terrible. And it's not like Olivera's such a good chain wrestler to like, she'll be able to just chain into it, the fight on the ground. I think Dwyer's going to keep the standing in if this fight does stay standing. Dwyer's going to eventually get the win. And that is my pick. I'm going to Dwyer. So that. And then looking at some of these fights. So quick rundown of my predictions, just basic on the fights. I am going Murphy, Riley, MVP, Ewo, Duncan, Silva, Mason Jones, Wood, Pinto, Mantas, Pericic, Rock, and Dwyer. Those are my official predictions for just fight wins. I'm gonna have a bunch of the bets I have going on in the Google Sheets to definitely take a look, and then also my big parlay. I'm just gonna do straight money line for my long shot parlay, which I love doing. Just 0.5 units. It's gonna be Murphy, Riley, MVP, Duncan, Silva, Jones, Wood, Pinto, Mantas, Merrick, Rock, and Dwyer. And then a new thing, I want to say most overhyped fighter of the night is, I think I'm going to, unfortunately, I might have to eat my words, but I have to go Keita. I just think like this fight, people are underestimating Wood, his talent so much to me. And it's not like Wood isn't an amazing fighter, but he is a tough SOB. And I think he gets it done. So that is my overhyped fight of the week. So I want you guys to, on the comments below, let me know what you agree with, disagree with, and, make me eat my words if Keita does get the done. So we'll do that. And great, guys. Talking to everyone. Hope you guys enjoy these fights. It's a little bit early of a start time, 1 p.m. Eastern, because it's across the pond. But we got some great fights, nights, and numbers card coming up. So stay tuned. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great day.